just returned from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and going to unpack all of our gear. First of all, this is basically what I wore as the base layer. Some type of t-shirt, some pants, gaiters, and hiking shoes. Start with the backpack. I wore a hat, a sun hat, every day during the trip. So this was very valuable. Worked out good to help block some of the rain as well, because we had rain nearly every day. Next we have a solar panel. This was useless at the start of the trip when the rain and clouds were so much that there was no sun whatsoever. As you get to higher elevations though, once we got to Barranco Camp, this was great. We were at such a high elevation that the solar panels grabbed all the sunlight and we charged up really quickly. I was able to recharge a watch and an iPhone within about 2 hours. Poncho, again, we had rain. That was incredibly valuable. The walking poles, I brought them with me. I usually don't use walking poles, but I knew that these would be valuable on summit night, which they were, and then I also used them a few other times. But I didn't hike with them every single day. Let's see, what do we have in this outer pocket? That's souvenir. Nothing in the outer pocket. Okay. Chapstick. I had this chapstick around my neck on summit day. Super convenient because it was easy to get to and I didn't have to scramble through my pockets in all of my different layers. Potable agua, I brought that with me just in case, but I ended up never using it. And some other stuff I didn't really use. Let's see, inside here was passport. This is actually required to get on and off the mountain. So at first we didn't know that was important, but luckily we had one. I brought a journal with me, so thanks David. This was a lot of fun to keep track of our trip. However, I have to say that it's going to be kind of weird to read because at the elevations we were at now, as tired as we were, I don't think I was writing super well, but at least I caught as much as I could. A hat. This was fantastic on at nights. When we would arrive to camp, it was pretty chilly at night, so this is fantastic. And I also wore this on summit day. A long sleeve button down shirt. Just a simple shirt here, but I used this a bunch. It was a nice second layer during a lot of the walks. So this was fantastic. Toiletries, obviously required. First aid kit, I actually did use this a couple times because it has scissors inside and some people needed scissors. And I also had some Imodium and some Advil, and so when some people got some sore muscles, this was fantastic for them. In addition to my camel bag that I brought, which is here, I think it's empty. In addition to my camel bag, in the inside, that was 3 liters. I also had a 4th liter of water, and I typically drank all 4 liters every day. So that was fantastic to have 4 liters in my pack. A little bit heavy, but it was well worth it. A little bag with all the different things I needed to charge my electronic devices. So that included my watch, phone, and cameras. Headlamp. Of course, use this every night. We ended up summiting the day after a full moon. So I personally did not use this hardly at all on the summit. Just used it when we stopped and took a rest break. Food. I packed way too much food. I think I packed enough for a couple of granola bars every day and a couple of these trail mix things every day. Way too much food, and the food is surprisingly heavy. It was nice to have sort of a security blanket, but it was a lot of stuff. FSU flag. That was just, that was for Summit so I could get a picture with the FSU flag. Obviously that was clearly very important. An emergency blanket, I just kept this with me in my backpack all the time. Never needed it, but I figured better be safe than sorry. Hand warmers, I didn't use hand warmers at all, and I was perfectly warm. In fact, a little hot for most of the summit day. Sunscreen, I didn't use this enough. So that was actually important. I kind of lost it the first couple of days and should have used it some more. Again, some more snacks, and I brought too many snacks. Some wet wipes. These are useful to just clean up at the end of each day if needed. So, and I guess the final thing is Julia and I took a picture with this at the top, which just says Cooper Pear Kilimanjaro 2016. So that was the day pack. Here's the duffel. The duffel bag had to be less than 32 pounds. The porters put the duffel bag inside a separate bag and carried it on their head, which is kind of crazy. We had the duffel bags, we had them locked every day. I thought the porters were perfectly safe, so this is probably overkill, but better be safe than sorry, right? So. All right. So I had a fleece. This is a really warm fleece. It's from Eddie Bauer, and it's also fairly windproof. So this was, I wore this on summit day. It was fantastic. Really kept me warm. This is a raincoat. I actually didn't wear the raincoat during the rain, but it was incredibly valuable on summit day to help block out all the wind, because there was a lot of wind. A sleeping mat. Mine is fairly small. It's great for backpacking. Not super fantastic for the trip because it was just fairly thin. So I have some bruises on the hips because I could have used a thicker mat. Sleeping bag. Obviously the sleeping bag is very important. This bag is supposed to get down to 15 degrees. This is perfectly warm for me every single night. I brought a sleeping bag liner. Did not use the liner once. This is a down jacket that I just have stuffed into a stuff sack. I wore the down jacket a couple of nights just to help make sure that it remained poofy so it would be warm on summit day. And then this was also one of my important layers on summit day. A bandana, I just kept this in my backpack throughout the week. Very important, and I use that quite a bit for keeping my nose clear. This was just goodies that we would use at night. Deck of cards, we actually used those a couple times. A chess set, ended up playing cards more than chess, so didn't bring that. Bought matches and a lamp. The lamp, ended up using that, just putting that inside our dining tent, so that was kind of fun. What do we have next? Some wet wipes. They were useful to help be clean, and some Kleenexes. That was a spare set of Kleenexes. I never actually used them. I did bring some binoculars that I thought I might use at the top of the mountain. Ended up not taking them with me to the top of the mountain. I had a pair for myself and a pair for Julia, but ended up leaving them at base camp just because of the extra weight. We ended up having a lot of clouds, so we didn't use them during the rest of the trip either, but I could see that these could be on another trip with clearer skies. These would have been fun at several of the base camps. I brought a couple of spare bandanas. I only used one of the spares, but again, they're pretty light, so it was worthwhile. I brought a spare pair of glasses. I was worried that the plastic frames might break, so I wanted to be sure I'd be able to see the whole time. Brought some ointment, never used that. Picked up some rocks along the way, so that was, I didn't actually use those, but have some rocks. Those rocks were from the top, and these were pretty cool rocks from that I picked up on day 2. Brought a little frisbee. We actually used this just once, kind of fun just to relax at one of the campsites. Brought some spare bags, trash bags. Obviously I didn't actually end up using them, but it was great to have the spares just in case my others broke. At the end, or at the beginning of each day, I would pack all of my clothes. I brought all my clothes in cubes, and I would put all of the cubes into a trash bag. My suitcase also has a my sleeping bag also has a trash bag inside. Again, it rained almost every day, so it was perfect to have stuff dry for the trip. These are all my medications. Malarone for the malaria, Crestor that I take every other day, and Diamox for the elevation. I started off on about day 3 with 1 Diamox at night just to help my body breathe faster while I was sleeping. And then the next night I took 2, and the next night I took 2. So I ended up taking, I think on summit night I took 2 also. Anyway, I used the Diamox. I don't know, who knows if it helped or not, but it made me feel better. Let's see, I brought a little thing that you could stuff with some of your clothes, and it'd be like a soccer ball. Thought we might use this, but with the bad weather, there was never really an opportunity. Another pretty volcanic rock. This is just a thing for water. I had anticipated using this on summit night, just to keep close to my body because I knew that the water would freeze. I ended up not using it. I was fine. I had about 2 liters of water in my camel bag, and I drank all of that before we got to Stella Point, so it never froze. And then one of the guides carried my Nalgene bottle of water. That did freeze at the top. He carried it upside down in the backpack for us. That did freeze at the top, but we were able to punch through it and still get some water. This is just a small towel. Works great for, it's pretty absorbent, works great. At the lower altitude when I needed it, it never would dry out. But, but I still used it almost every day, so that was really worthwhile. And then some more toilet paper, some more hand warmers, which I ended up not using a single hand warmer. The toiletry kit. So my toiletry kit, I had dental floss, a toothbrush, toothpaste, a comb. I used a comb one night or one morning after just putting water on my head, some deodorant, and then we ended up not using it, but we really could have. It was just, we were tired at the end of each day, but we brought a toothbrush that we just converted into a nail brush. So this, like I said, we ended up not using it, but we probably should have. And then just a bag of spare batteries. I brought 2 spare batteries with me to the top of the mountain for, let's see, I forgot one thing in my backpack. Attached to my backpack, I have an altimeter. It's mostly a barometer. The way that this device works, this is a Celestron altimeter, and it's not very good. It calculates the altitude based on barometric pressure, but it seems to adjust the sea level pressure as you go, and so it's kind of worthless. According to this thing, we never went above 18,000 feet. So it was reading pretty inaccurately along the trip. And then brought along a Geiger counter. So this was why I brought some of the spare batteries. so that I could, at summit day, if the batteries died in my Geiger counter, I could put some more batteries in. And I actually used that on summit day, which was pretty convenient. All right, we're getting close to the end. I brought a spare pair of shoes. I brought some Vans. The reason I brought Vans is because you can see here, they can be folded up nice and flat. They're a little bit heavy, but can be folded up nice and flat. Because of the bad weather that we had, I never used the Vans. I just stuck to my boots the whole time, and that was fine. I didn't need a second set of shoes along the hike. All right, so now I have a bunch of cubes that was holding all of my clothes. So my clothes I brought, let's see, this is kind of the discard pile. So let's go through it this way. So I started off with, this duffel was empty. Once I was done using clothes for the rest of the trip, I would put them in there. Each of these cubes held different types of clothes so that I could get to them and find things easily. So this cube was all of my cold weather gear. So I have, I ended up not using this at all, but this was just something to keep my ears warm. And then I had a baklava. This was very valuable on the trip. Could put this over, I used this as a hat for most of summit day, and then could cover my mouth with it as well. So that was incredibly valuable. These REI gloves were the best things ever. So these pretty thin gloves is what I used whole summit day and nothing else. They were just meant to be glove liners. They ended up being just gloves. And in this thing, I just kept this wrapped around my neck the whole time. This was really nice and cozy to just have wrapped up and keep my neck nice and warm. I brought the wool hat with me, and I had that easily accessible in my pocket, but I actually never ended up wearing the wool cap. And then I had these mittens. I started off wearing the mittens. I actually never ended up putting them back on. On our first break, I took the mittens off and never put them back on. I was just fine. So what's our next bag here? All right, this is my underwear and socks type stuff. So I had some long johns. This is what I slept in every night. These are just silk long johns. It was nice to get out of my normal clothes and just have something else to wear. These were super comfortable, super cozy. Definitely recommended them. For socks, I changed, put in a different pair of socks every day, but then recycled them. I always had a pair of liners and a pair of wool socks. So I had one, two, there's more in here. I think I had 3 pairs of socks. Oh, here we go. Yeah, 3. So I had 3 pairs of wool socks and liners. Plus on summit day, these are just really thick wool socks. And these, my toes did get pretty cold on summit day. But these are probably about the best that I could do. What's next? So this cube was pants. So I had these zip-off pants. These were fantastic. On the hot days, I could just let my legs vent if needed. I never actually took the bottom legs off. I always kept them on. Then I had a nice pair of REI pants. The belt was something I forgot to bring, but luckily Jim had a spare belt for me, so that was the best thing ever because I actually really needed the belt. These pants were great. I wore them a couple of days on hiking. They're a little bit warm, really cozy. So yeah, I wore them a couple of days hiking. That was my, I also wore those on summit day. My outer layer on summit day were my rain pants. I never wore the rain pants any other time except for Summit Day. It did, and like I said, it did rain, but I ended up not wearing them. So I had rain pants, I had these nice REI pants, then under that I had these salmon pants, advanced skin, warm. So those were great on Summit Day, and that's the only time I wore those pants. And then under that I had a nice pair of, what is this? Icebreaker. This is, sure I got this at REI, so I had that underneath, and then just the regular underwear under all of that. I also brought one other pair of sort of long johns, sort of just cozy under base layer type pants to wear. I ended up never touching these. I almost wore them on Summit Day, but decided I didn't really need to, that it would be too much. Is that it? One more bag. Oh. I'll get back to that. So one more bag for shirts. So for shirts, I brought 3 athletic t-shirts. This one, of course, I'm a Seminoles fan, so I brought this one and this one. This is a little bit of a thicker of the athletic t-shirts, so this is my base layer on Summit Day. Next, I brought several long sleeve shirts that were just really cozy. 2 Nike shirts that are really cozy. These are running shirts, athletic running shirts. I wore this one a lot. Would put it on at night to keep me warm while we were walking around the camps. On Summit Day, I wore the white t-shirt. Then I had that long sleeve shirt, and then another Nike warm athletic shirt, and then topped off with another, who is this, Halo? This is an old shirt I have, but another athletic shirt. This one's thicker. I also wore this a few times when we were at camp at night. So those were all my shirts, and let's see, the only thing left was, did I put it back in the bag? The only thing left was DEET. I ended up not using the DEET. The hike starts off and begins and ends in a rainforest, but in both cases I never saw mosquitoes. Our last night on the mountain at 10,000 feet, we saw something flying around, but I think they were moths. I don't think they were mosquitoes. I don't notice any mosquito bites, so I don't think any mosquitoes were around, but the DEET is light, so it wasn't bad to bring the DEET. And the only other thing that I brought is the GoPro camera, which is filming this video right now. And I also brought an iPhone to take some pictures, and Julia brought a regular camera, an old style digital camera, to get some pictures because we thought the battery might last longer, and it also has a nice zoom. So that's it. Oh, I guess I also brought, which is going to be fun to look at, is my Fitbit. And so it'd be fun with the Fitbit to see how many steps we took. The pace, the stride length while we were walking at that high elevation was really small. So the number of steps was pretty high every day, because the word we kept hearing throughout the whole trip was pole, pole. So we were going really slow the whole way. So that's it. That's my gear. That's the duffel bag and the backpack that I brought with me. And for the most part, I was happy. There wasn't my shoes I didn't use, and that was because of the weather. I forgot a belt, but luckily Jim had a spare belt for me. And I brought too much snacks. I think those are the main things that, main mistakes I made which isn't too bad in the grand scheme of things. All right, that's the unpacking from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, 7 days on the mountain.